Hello everyone, my name is Ryan Cam and welcome back to my road to Mission Impossible Final Reckoning, where I'm covering every Mission Impossible film in honor of Final Reckoning coming to theaters later this month. I've already covered Mission Impossibles 1 and 2, link in the eye in the right-hand corner, but now we get to the black sheep of the franchise, Mission Impossible 3. This was released in 2005, it was directed by J.J. Abrams. It sees Ethan Hunt as a happily retired man, married, got the good life. However, when he hears that one of his trainees was killed in action in an attempt to rescue, basically he is unretired, like Al Pacino in Godfather Part 3. Just when he thought he was out, he was pulled back in, and now has to go after the man responsible for her death, named Owen Davian, played by Philip Seymour Hoffman. So, joining me for this review is Jake Collins from 3D Movie Cinema. Collins, how are you?
I'm doing great. I have that mystery box, and so I'm hoping that you can get to my review with the mystery box, but I'm never going to answer that definitive question of what my score is.
Thank you for coming to his TED Talk. And joining us is from the Mission Impossible 2 review from Movie Fan Z, it's Zach Shelton. Zach, welcome back.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, you asked if I wanted to be on here, and I gladly accepted. So,
well, I enjoyed our Mission Impossible 2 discussion so much. We got to talking about 3, and I was like, maybe I should invite him on to do this. And so you gladly accepted, and I thank you for that very much. Mission Impossible 3 is a bit of an odd duck, because on the one hand, it's very good, but in other ways, it feels vastly different from the rest of the franchise. This is the transition point for the franchise, generally speaking. As Collins and I have talked about off air, Collins has the theory that 1, 2, and 3 are essentially prequels, and then the rest, and then like 4 and the rest are like the mainline series. So it's like all the build up, and then from Ghost Protocol onward is the accepted canon. However, there's a lot of good stuff in Mission Impossible 3, and I feel like a lot of that is not on purpose necessarily, but unjustly swept under the rug. So, Collins, I'll go to you first. What are your overall thoughts?
Well, I don't know why I'm Obi-Wan-ing here, just going like thing to do. Like, yes. Tom Cruise, really became like, even though he is the star of the first 3, he really, with 4 onward, it became his thing, his show, because really that's because he got to do his own stunts and everything. And he says during 3, like, I really wanted to do the jumping of the building and everything. They're like, you can't do that. That's all CGI. And so he was really upset about that. And so he's like, you know what? If I come back for the next one, I swear I'm going to have power and I'm going to be able to do my own stunts like the way I want to do. And that's, and also he had more creative control over the series as it went on compared to with the first 3, where those were less his films. And I do like this movie, though. I really like this. Is my favorite of the 3. But at the same time, how can you forget Philip Seymour Hoffman as Owen Davies?
Yeah, we will touch on his greatness in just a bit. But Zach, what are your overall thoughts?
Yes. So, this used to be my favorite in the franchise. It's dipped down a little bit, but I still really enjoy the movie. Philip Seymour Hoffman, we will talk about him, but I definitely have my thoughts on his character. But it's funny how you kind of mentioned the theory thing, because now it has me thinking, like, is this like the Fast and Furious? Like the first 3, and then it really gets going. It's like that. I guess it's kind of like that. But yeah, there's some good action in here, and I will say that if you're a fan of Tom Cruise running, you get that in this movie. So
my mother hates that more than anything. She says she hates Tom Cruise, and she says I hate more than anything watching him run. I'm like, why, Mom? It looks like he has a corn cob up his ass when he runs. Every time
he's not the most graceful runner, but like he's now known for running. So
it's like he trolls when he runs. Like, there has to be a running scene in this movie. I don't care where. If I'm in the snow, I have to run. And you're just like, Family Guy did a really funny joke why he runs, but I'm not going to show. Ryan can put the context of the joke in.
You can't catch me, gay thoughts.
I don't know much about like directing styles. I liked the way the movie was directed, but I don't know. I'm not as knowledgeable on certain directing styles, if you know what I mean.
Like the biggest thing about him is there's two things he's known for: lens flares and the mystery box theory. Where in all of his movies he has the mystery box. Where even me and Ryan's like, I watched a whole TED talk on the mystery box, where he basically sets something up as a mystery but never explains it. And he's known to like he never explains it. Any of his movies, he did that with Force Awakens, Star Trek, and all these Super 8. Always does the mystery box theory, and he's like, and he never ever explains it because he goes, the funnest part of it is not even knowing not knowing what's inside the box. You just know the mystery is more exciting than what you ever like Lost. That's literally he did the mystery box for Lost, and the whole time, which a lot of people get mad. So like J.J. Abrams is like the biggest troll ever. Like he'll set something up grand scheme and then never ever pay off, and just be like, well,
it's definitely true in this movie. So
like the rabbit's foot, where he's like, we didn't really want to explain what the rabbit's foot was, so we just felt like not knowing is much more incredible. Like thinking it's something because anybody can know it.
It's all about the journey.
Well, yeah, which to be fair, it could be like you could say, well, look at Pulp Fiction. Nobody really knows what the briefcase is. And so, when you open the briefcase, everybody has their interpretation of what the briefcase is. Some people think, that it's the Holy Grail, It's from Indiana Jones.
There's two popular theories. It's the diamonds from the diamond heist in Reservoir Dogs, or it's Marcellus Wallace's soul. But if you ask Tarantino, it's like it's just a couple of lights.
So I have a question for you, Ryan. What did you think of the movie?
Like I said, I think this is the most misunderstood of the franchise. I feel like people have strong opinions on 1, strong opinions on 2, and then they just forget about 3. I think like that's a bit unfair. There's a lot of good things here, things that I really love and appreciate. This probably has my favorite opening of any of these movies. It literally starts out in media res, like in the middle of the action. It's Ethan Hunt tied to a chair. He's staring directly across from his wife, who is like taped over mouth, tied to a chair. And Owen Davian's like, I have activated the bomb in your head. And I'm like, I'm sorry, what? There's a bomb where in your head? And then just in the most callous way possible, he's like, I am counting down. And just Philip Seymour Hoffman, and we'll get to him, I promise, but he just is just a callous, just horrible person in this whole movie. And this just sets the tone for where it's going to go. So J.J. Abrams at least understood the assignment of opening the movie. And then we get the whole Berlin stuff, which I thought was quite good. The whole rescuing Diane Kruger thing was awesome. Secretly preparing for her role in National Treasure as Dr. Abigail Chase. And then it leads to one of the gnarliest scenes in the Mission Impossible.
I was like, did you say Diane Kruger? It was Kerry Russell.
Kerry Russell.
Yes, you said Diane Kruger. That's all like, wait, Diane Kruger's not in this movie.
You're right. That's why I have
Felicity.
That's why I have co-hosts, because if I screw up, like these guys will be like, actually no, it's not that. But yes, Kerry Russell, thank you for catching me on that. That makes a lot more sense because J.J. Abrams and Kerry Russell, like, they work with each other in everything.
Yeah, Felicity. He worked with her on Felicity.
Anyway, Lindsay Ferris gets out. They're on their way out, and then just the bomb explodes in her head, and it's just, you don't see a loud bang. You just see her just go. And it's just a scene where it messes me up every time because she's there, but she's not. And it's like, she's just gone. Like, it's such a crazy, insane technology that never really gets introduced in any of the later movies. There's a brutality to this movie that I feel like later movies in this franchise just don't really have. Not that there's necessarily anything wrong with that, but Abrams brought a little bit more of to it, for lack of a word to say for it.
So, did you guys ever wish that was Theodore Newton, like the love interest from the second film that they're rescuing, and then have her die to make the stakes more emotional? Like, that's all I felt like, because I felt like I hated in the movies how they introduced people that we've never seen, that we're just meeting for the first time. It's like, oh, Tom Cruise has an emotional attachment, but I'm like, it would be better if this was a character from the second movie, like, especially if it was his love interest from the second movie he's rescuing, and then she dies, and you're like, oh my god, we're killing off.
I see what you're saying, but I have to disagree because the whole movie is centered around Ethan Hunt needs to make a choice between the life of the IMF or the life of being the normal dude. He cannot choose both, and he has to pick a choice, and he has to make a choice. He has to pick one and stick with it. We don't know who Michelle Monaghan's character is in that moment, but when we circle back around to it, when we have more context, I feel like that makes it hit just a bit harder. So I see what you're saying, but Thandie Newton really wasn't much of anything in Mission Impossible 2. Zach, I think you can agree with me on that.
I mean, I thought they had good chemistry in there, but like again, yeah, she wasn't much of anything, but I still liked their chemistry though.
Apparently hated Tom Cruise, saying that Tom Cruise was a nightmare to work with in Mission 2. So, like, apparently they didn't want to bring her back because they said she was difficult to work with. So they're like, we're not bringing her back. So before J.J. Abrams apparently even come on board, like when Joe Carnahan was going to direct, they said they weren't bringing her back. They were bringing a new lead. And like Carrie Ann Moss was supposed to be the lead in the movie, the female lead, but they dropped her when J.J. Abrams come on board and said he wanted to scrap and start fresh from villains. To which I'm like, I am so glad J.J. Abrams actually came on board because he casted well. He really casted really well. Which, did you know that this movie underperformed? And I kind of, it sucks because this is like, to me, honestly, this movie should have made more money than 2, I think. Because, I mean, this one I think is better than 2. And I just feel like, I understand why, because Tom Cruise was going on the I Love Scientology tour and, was really causing rifts with people, especially Steven Spielberg and stuff. And also starting shit with South Park for no reason. I don't know why he started shit with South Park, but, like.
It might be the fun thing to do. You never know.
Yeah. That's half the reason why this movie underperformed, because he apparently was mad at Paramount because Paramount, this is all like, by the way, in the Wikipedia, where he was messing with Paramount because he was mad that they aired a Scientology episode making fun of him. The South Park guys did. So then he told them, I'm not going to do press for Mission Impossible 3 unless you delete that episode. And so they said, we're not going to air the episode. And then Trey Parker and Matt Stone let it be known to the world that Tom Cruise sabotaging the show. And then South Park people are like, we're not going to see Mission Impossible 3. And then the movie open weekend tanked. So then to Paramount to make things easy. And this went national news. And like they even have, they're on Time Magazine, Trey Parker and Matt Stone spray painting the Church of Scientology. And then Matt saying, is dumb. And then Trey saying, hi, Tom. And then just like, and they were saying, yeah, Tom Cruise sabotaged our South Park show. So our fans sabotage Mission Impossible. And then Matt goes, I'm not watching Mission Impossible 3 because fuck Tom Cruise, right? And so it's like, and so that was a whole thing.
It got so bad at a point that they were considering doing Mission Impossible without Tom Cruise. It was supposed to be in Ghost Protocol, and when I bring Austin Pez Howell on to talk about that one, we'll touch on this, I am sure. But it was supposed to be Jeremy Renner replacing Tom Cruise as the next head of the franchise. That never happened. Jeremy Renner is in a couple of the movies, but he's just the character with the generic last name of Brandt. Like, where's Brandt? Somebody find Brandt. But like, and I'm not trying to dunk on Jeremy Renner. I mean, he got his bag with the MCU the same year or a year after that with the Avengers. So I'm not going to say like he missed the boat. He got on a arguably bigger boat. But it's interesting to think that nowadays, with Final Reckoning coming out, and like half of the appeal of this movie being what crazy thing is Tom Cruise going to do next, it would have been amazing just to think 20 years prior we were thinking about, should Mission Impossible move on without him? So interesting parallel universe, Doctor Strange, multiverse of madness kind of stuff to think about.
Which I think is because he got his shit together by 2011. Because I think Paramount said, we're not going to deal with your bullshit anymore. Like, we will move on without you, okay? Like, and I think because he got his shit together by 2011, because I mean, like after Mission Impossible 3 came out, you could see the filmography he had, all of his movies were not, he was like literally fading away movie star up until I think it was, what was it, Ghost Protocol was like the first movie he did that actually made money, because he did Valkyrie and a couple of other movies that weren't really successful. you know, people are like, is Tom Cruise a fading movie star? And then he does Mission Impossible, and then he does Mission Impossible Ghost Protocol, and then it becomes like a big movie again. They're like, oh, Tom Cruise is back. And so I think that's really, you know, and I think honestly, really, it kind of is interesting because he was like the, you know, the bad boy, you know, like around that time, like, oh, Tom Cruise is wacky, Tom Cruise is crazy. And then to see Tom Cruise now is like, oh, now Tom Cruise saving movie theaters with Top Gun Maverick and stuff. And now it's like, it's crazy to think like back in 2006, people were like, fuck this dude, you know, to be like, oh, I really like this guy. You know, I really think it's crazy.
Time does insane things. But enough about Tom Cruise for a minute. Let's talk about Philip Seymour Hoffman. Let's finally get to him because, wow, did he ever understand the assignment? Like, he's just a cruel man, and like easily the best villain in this franchise by a significant lot. Like, Solomon Lane is a second place, but it's Owen Davian, and then distant second is Solomon Lane. Zach, what do you think?
Yeah, he is still my favorite villain in the franchise because he's so different from everybody else in terms of, you could see it in that opening scene. He is cold and calculated, and he does not care at all. And I feel like that's just somebody that you just don't want to mess with, is that kind of villain who wants to, he's kind of in a way like people said this about like the Joker. It's like, he just wants to see the world burn, but like he just does not care.
Do y'all like the scene? I love this, that open one, especially when he's counting down and he's like, and he goes, finally, like he's set counting down, like when he gets to 6, he goes, Paris. He goes, it's not in Paris. And then he goes 7. Then he shoots her in the leg. He goes, do you think I'm playing? He goes, do you? He says, and then he says, 8. And then he says, counting down. And Tom Cruise is like almost like pleading with him because he knows it's like literally, because when you see the full scene in context, especially like he had him in that scene where like, oh, you tried to torture me for information. Now it's the other way around. Like, it's basically reverse psychology in him, where it's like, and you know, Tom Cruise is in that shit. Like, he told him, like, do you have a girlfriend or anything? Like, somebody killed her. I'm gonna hurt her. Like, it's just like, it's that moment where I'm like, this is such this evil. Like, you know, you believe him when he shoots her in the leg. You like, you know, he's like, this is not a warning. This is a promise. You know, and like, let me ask you this: when he shot her in the head, did y'all actually believe she was dead, or did you be like, well, yeah, I don't believe that?
No, like, it got me. Like, this was the first Mission Impossible movie I ever saw in theaters. It was at the Dollar Theater that is sadly no longer with us. It is now a mixed martial arts gym. True story. But I was a little kid, and I was just like, my heart was broken, and I'm like, this is just the saddest thing. And then when Billy Crudup shows up and he's like, it's actually the translator. Your wife is still alive for now. Which, speaking of Billy Crudup, Zach, you and I were talking after the Mission Impossible 2 recording that the twist involving Billy Crudup, we both weren't fans necessarily.
No,
right?
it just seemed like it was my issue. One of my issues is that it seemed like it was just twist upon twist upon. It just like, it seemed like you had too many twists for this movie, and you could have just had one, and I think it could have worked.
Again, it's the J.J. Abrams mystery box.
And I feel the need to say that J.J. Abrams, I'm not in the camp of he's bad at his job. I think that he has directed some very good movies. Like, I like Super 8. I like Star Trek and Star Trek Into Darkness. Into Darkness jumped the shark a bit with like the whole like Benedict Cumberbatch as Khan. Yeah. Like fine, but his 2 Star Wars movies are definitely worthy of reviews on this channel one day. But I'll just say Force Awakens was fine. But Rise of Skywalker was not his fault. He was just rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. He was just doing what he could with what he could. However, he did a great job with these action sequences, the stuff in the Vatican. I loved that. The stuff on the bridge where the helicopter's firing off and Tom Cruise just goes like side first into a car on an explosion. I'm just like, wow, like that is breathtaking stuff. I need to know where they purchased this like gel of sorts. They spray it on the side of the armored car, they break it open, and they break Davian out. I'm just like, what they have like the anti-fire extinguishers, like instead of cooling off a fire, it just like it's like heated foam. Like I don't know what that stuff was, but there's just at least 3 action sequences in this movie where I'm like, these are fantastic, and no one's talking about them.
The drone attack scene is so good. I really enjoyed that scene, especially when the drone. And then I say, Ethan is coming back, and then like it's just like, oh shit, like he's trying to get the gun out to stop them. And one thing I also like is that when they spray the gel, it like the shaving cream that looks like shaving cream, whatever. You literally like it doesn't just like automatically open like they have to wait a few minutes. And I like that idea, like, oh, it has to wait a few minutes, and so they're just trying to hold off the IMF guys while like the drone isn't. So they just bring the drone back around whenever they see him reaching, going for the gun. And I thought that was like, oh my god, like especially like I'm sitting there watching this, and I've seen this movie before like several times, and I'm just like, it's just so intense because it's like like all of a sudden you see it's a drone attack on a bridge, civilians are there, and nobody knows what's going on. There's cotton warfare, and I just thought that was great. Like Zach, what did you think about that scene?
Yeah, that's that bridge scene. I definitely have a different thought of after rewatching it, because I was telling people this, and I don't know if you think about this. It seemed a little too over the top. It seemed like some people. I was talking to other people. It seemed kind of Michael Bay-ish, if you can understand that. It didn't seem J.J. Abrams like. It seemed more Michael Bay, but maybe that they wanted to take inspiration from that.
I mean, probably. I mean, J.J. Abrams is a big fan of Michael Bay, and he worked on Armageddon, so
yeah. It just seemed a little too much for that. So,
which J.J. Abrams actually did say one time he was the one that told Michael Bay he should make more than one Transformer movies. He said, "You're the only one that can make these movies." Like he was the one that told Michael Bay that. So I mean, yeah, which. I imagine he probably did get in studio notes from Michael Bay, like, you should do this. And because, I mean, Michael Bay probably was making Transformers 1 at the time, Mission Impossible 3 was shooting. So,
I think they were around the same time.
Like, you should blow it up. Yeah, Michael Bay and J.J. was like, I think, all right, this little drone shot comes and he attacks, and that's it. No, you have to go back. Michael Bay's like, you have to have explosion here, explosion over here. Tom Cruise has to get blown and hits the car. The drone, you have to bring that drone back around. You can't just introduce a drone. You have to have a lot of explosions. It's a drone strike. Have you seen those Iraq drone strikes? Here, let me pull it up on CNN.com. Let me show you. This is what happens. Hey, all right, Michael. Okay, all right. Like, I imagine that's what a meeting looks like when Michael Bay's giving notes. Like, you got to do like this. Have you seen this? Like, you got to do like this. But I liked it, I like that, it's not like, I just like that, the idea of is like, they're being attacked and they were never expecting it. Although I will say the one Michael Bay, like feeling I get when I know what you're talking about, especially whenever he's being brought off the plane and they're doing like that slow motion walk. And I'm like, this feels very Michael Bay-ish. Like, like I'm just waiting for Tom Cruise to get up with his cell phone and they're doing that 360 shot.
I will say that one character that, so I was talking to somebody and that we kind of agree does not get enough love, and he definitely, except for I think it was, I don't remember which one we were talking about, Ryan, but Luther, he needs more love in these movies because he's kind of like the best friend, and it's like I was talking to somebody, if he goes in Final Reckoning, I feel like that would be a huge gut punch, just because of how close him and Ethan are.
They were supposed
there was a close call in Fallout, and then like even then I was like, oh, please don't do this. No, please don't do it. And they don't, but it was way too close for my liking.
Oh, I hope this isn't a spoiler for like the future. I hope this isn't spoiled Dead Reckoning Part 2, but or Final Reckoning, sorry. But like from what I read, originally the plan was in Fallout, they were going to kill Jeremy Renner off at the beginning of the movie, but then Jeremy Renner was like, he didn't want to be killed off. So then they went and said, what if we kill off Luther at the beginning of the movie? And then they pitched it to Big Rams, and Big Rams gets angry, and he goes, why does the black guy got to die in every movie? And then they pitched it, and then Tom Cruise like, yeah, you're right. Why does the black guy have to die in every movie? So then they're like, all right, well, let's just change it to him get shots, and that's it. And so he's like, it's so Big Ron's like, he says, I got to keep making these movies because I said, I don't want to die. And so they're like, because they said, but it's going to add more emotion. They were like, it's going to add more emotion to Ethan's motivation in the movie. And he's like, I don't want to die though. So, and they asked Jeremy Renner, and Jeremy's like, I don't want to die either. So it's like, they're like, all right, I guess he gets shot and that's it. So it's like, he's fine. It's like, which I'm like, I can explain, that explains why at the beginning where it's like, oh, it's okay. Well, I'm like, that would have been more motivating. I think it would have been more cool, but still Fallout's a great movie. I'm still, even with that, I will say, I do think that, Luther is a character that really gets, especially he's not even in 4. Like he has a cameo at the end of 4 and you're just like, where's Luther at? And apparently he was shooting Piranha 3D at the time. So that's why he's not in the movie. Apparently he was shooting Piranha at the time they were shooting Mission Impossible. So that's why they brought in Simon Pegg.
But I mean, but the introduction of Benji is also good too. So,
yeah. Which, do you know that was a joke? That came out as a joke originally because they were making a joke, like, because what happened was they had made they were doing press for, like, I think Shaun of the Dead or Hot Fuzz. I think it was Hot Fuzz. And they were like, someone asked, what are you and Nick Swartz, what are you and are y'all going to do next for your movie career? And they're like, what do you think we're going to do? Like, we're not going to do a Mission Impossible 3 or nothing. And Ricky Gervais was originally, they casted Ricky Gervais originally as that role. But then Ricky Gervais could not do it because he was busy doing another project. I think Life is Short or something he was doing. So then they literally said Simon Pegg, like, hey, Tom Cruise heard that joke and said, what if we put Simon Pegg as a joke, put him in there. And so that's why Simon Pegg's the Mission Impossible as a nod to that joke. That joke, that clip is out there of someone them asking, like, what are you going to do? It's not like we're going to do Mission Impossible 3 or nothing. And so I thought that was so funny. It's like, and then years later, Simon Pegg's in every Mission Impossible movie going forward. It's like, yeah,
his role gets bigger every movie. He honestly has one of my favorite Mission Impossible lines in Fallout where they rescue Solomon Lane, and he's like, it's okay, this won't hurt enough, because he remembers the stuff in the restaurant with the bomb vest and all of that. I thought that was a nice little bit of revenge.
Or what about in Rogue Nation, wherever he's just like, when the CIA's giving him a lie detector test, and he goes, "Who are you?" "The King of Norway." He said, "I'm actually certified for the King of Norway." Actually, it's true. And I thought that was fun. And he goes, "Can I go back now to playing Call of Duty?" He said, "Can I go back to playing the Xbox?" And he says, "Let you polygraph." I thought that was which, I mean, I will say though, did you know that, by the way, did y'all spot Aaron Paul's in this movie? Like, Aaron Paul's a little older.
Yes, he is. Yes, I did know that.
He actually has a funny story. He said that Tom Cruise, because he's a big fan of magic. He's a big fan of magic. And so Tom Cruise, like, he was trying to win favor with Tom Cruise, and he goes, "Hey," he told J.J. Abrams, "I'm a big fan of magic too." And then they misunderstood and thought he was a magician. So then J.J. Abrams says, "Hey, everybody, we're going to pause for the party scene because Aaron's going to do a magic trick for us." And so he's like, "I have no idea how to do magic." Like, they're all expecting, everybody's waiting around. Tom Cruise is like, and so Aaron pulls out a deck of cards and goes, "Is this your card?" And they're like, "Oh, that's a shitty magician." Like that. So it was like, I thought that was so funny. Like, they're all waiting around to watch him do magic. And it wasn't even it was the card trick. I thought that was so funny. He was so embarrassed. He was telling Conan O'Brien, "I was so embarrassed." What did y'all think of the female protagonist Maggie Q plays, the one who's like a spy?
Well, I was gonna say, this is a surprisingly loaded cast. Like, not only Maggie Q, like you mentioned, Michelle Monaghan's here, Kerry Russell, trying to make up for my mistake earlier. Billy Crudup is here. Jonathan Rhys-Meyers is here. Lawrence Fishburne plays the head of the IMF, continuing the revolving door of IMF chiefs before they finally settle on Alec Baldwin 2 movies later. Talk about casting choices that aged like milk, but I digress. So, loaded cast.
Let me ask you. So with what did you think of the scene where Ethan Hart? What did you both? I want to know both of you, especially you, Zach. Whenever, because Ryan was telling me how great that scene was. Whenever his heart, because he has the bomb in his head, and his heart stops, and then he's like, and she has to revive him and everything, and everybody's coming to the door, and when she has that, she goes, "Ah!" And she just goes, lays on the floor, and goes, "Bah, bah, bah, bah." What did you think of that? I thought that was cool, but
that was a scene that's
You didn't like it.
no, I did. It took me a minute to remember it, but I mean, I that's another one where if you saw that live, you thought maybe that was the end of him too. It's like you just never knew. So
I didn't like the way Billy Crudup died, where she shoots him, and then all of a sudden he goes, "Ha, ha!" Like, how dare you? Like, I was like, "How dare you shoot me? How dare you?" You know, it's like that's not a reaction. That's a really weird reaction to die. Like, instead of going like that, instead it's like, "Ha, ha!" Like he just got like literally. She took his favorite shoe, rubbed it in dog shit, threw it outside or something. That's how the reaction he has instead of like, oh my God, like you have a fear of God in your face because you're about to die. Instead, just I thought that was odd. Which to be fair, I don't think he deserved to die. Like I think honestly, he was just like, I thought he was not I honestly felt like he's like his friend the whole movie, and then at the end he's like, Ethan, we have the rabbit's foot and all and everything, but like I just need to find out, does the IMF know who I am? Like we're cool, Ethan, and everything. I'm gonna let you go and all, but like I just need to know, man. Like I'm just thinking. So what is this like a punk on him? Like that's the one time. Like so what? Are you just trying to punk him? Like he's like I'm gonna let you go in a second, but I just need to know. Does the IMF know about me, man? Also, your girl's over here, and I'm just thinking, what? It would have made more sense if it was Lawrence Fishburne. It would have made more sense if it was Lawrence Fishburne.
well, see, and that was the twisty thing. Like, who is really the bad guy? And it just like it seemed like it was just too many twists for that. That was what
Would you have been happier if it was Fishburne?
I mean, I would have been okay with it because that's what you started with, and it's just like to twist at the end. It kind of with Crudup. It seemed like it wasn't necessary to make him the bad guy per se.
It felt like it was done for a twist,
or the assistant bad guy.
Yeah. It felt like it was done for a twist purpose. It didn't feel like it actually progressed or made the story like understood. Yeah. Like it felt like, because then there's some kind of consistencies. Like, okay, why would he let him go then if he has him right where he wants him? Which I understand because he wants him to get the rabbit's foot, but still, it's like it just like there's just certain. Yeah, I understand. There's certain tissues that kind of feel like they don't add up with that logic.
So I think to put the period at the end of the sentence here, Mission Impossible 3 has it's not the best in the series, but I feel like in a lot of ways it represents areas of these movies that have been lost over time, like strengths. Like there's a lot of really good bits about Ethan that get lost. Like Julia comes back, Michelle Monaghan's character comes back in Fallout, but I feel like there's a definitive gear shift between, okay, these are no longer these films. It's now like the Tom Cruise show, which again, nothing wrong with that. My favorite movie in the series is Ghost Protocol. I mean, that's like one of the pure examples of like the Tom Cruise show, like Tom Cruise doing cool things for 2 hours. Like that's why you're here, and I celebrate that. However, I feel like J.J. Abrams did a lot with this, and I feel like that has been, I don't know, lost over time, I guess. I'm going to give it an amazing grade on my scale. It is the most underrated of the franchise. It's in many ways misunderstood, the most misunderstood in the franchise. Like I said, it's not the best. It's not my favorite, but I feel like just in general, it got a lot of things right. And it marks the end of an era of the early years. And after this, it's Ghost Protocol and Rogue Nation and just full steam ahead, quite literally. Like stuff that is canon here is just pretty much forgotten about by the time Ghost Protocol starts 5 years later. So it's a bit of a shame, but at the same time, considering the string of quality that these movies were on and are still on to this day, it's not necessarily a traumatic loss. It's more of like a interesting what they could have done there, but also can't argue with the results of what we've gotten so far.
I agree. Yeah, talking about it definitely. Again, it's not my favorite, but it's still a very good movie in my opinion. with some cool aspects and definitely, in my opinion, the best villain in the franchise. I would give this a very good score. So,
All right,
You
Collins.
know, I agree. I mean, to be fair, like, this is like, I would say this, and I think Ghost Protocol are two of my neck and neck of my favorite. The only reason I say this has the better villain because Ghost Protocol villain is almost non-existent, in that movie compared to this villain, where this villain actually has dialogue and doesn't have less than 5 words, and so I think that's one reason why I hold this more. Where I think, yeah, but is the plot a little bit better in Ghost Protocol? Yes, but I feel like the villain really stands out more in Mission Impossible 3.
So I pass it off to all of you. What did you think of Mission Impossible 3? Let us know in the comments. We'd love to read what you have to say. Zach's channel, Zach was just on the channel just to talk about Mission Impossible 2. His channel will be linked in the description. Tell the people where they can find you.
Yeah, you could find me at MovieFanZ. I just uploaded 2 reviews today, one for Crimson Tide and another for In the Heart of the Sea. 2 very different movies, but I usually post a lot of older movie reviews. But other than that, I try to upload every day or every other day, so come check it out.
All right, and Collins, what do you have coming up?
Well, I have a counter review of In the Sea and Crimson Tide, where I'm gonna say I'm talking negatively about that movie. No. But yeah, I actually just dropped a review for Final Destination 3. By the time this airs 3, it would have been 3. And of course, I'm doing. We do watch parties every. We're trying to get to 6, but we just keep going. Our weeks keep changing up. But yeah, I just dropped my review for Final Destination 3, and then on top of that, we have Small Talk every Tuesday, Kitchen Talk every Thursday, and Friday we have our watch party for the Batman Terry for Batman Begins. That's this Friday, and this and then 3D Movie Cinema, YouTube.com. That's it.
Yep, all their links are in the description. Go check them out. As far as this channel goes, this series will continue with a look at my personal favorite Mission Impossible film, Ghost Protocol, and I will be joined by Austin Pez Howell to talk about that, and I'm greatly looking forward to that. But for Zach, for Collins, my name is Ryan Cam. We will see you all in the next one. Y'all take care.